I didn't know it was a blind date until I was already standing outside the cafe, checking my phone for the third time. My friend had said, "Just come, you'll like her." That was it, no photo, no details, just trust. I almost left when I saw her. She was already there, sitting near the window, sunlight falling across her face. Her wheelchair was positioned neatly beside the table, like it was just another chair. She was reading something on her phone, calm, unbothered, completely unaware that my chest had tightened the second I understood. I hesitated long enough for guilt to start creeping in. Then she looked up. Her smile wasn't hopeful. It wasn't nervous either. It was practiced, the kind you learn when you're used to people making decisions about you before you ever speak. "You must be him," she said. "Yeah," I replied, forcing my voice to work. "Sorry I'm late." "You're not," she said. "You're exactly on time." That should have eased me. It didn't. Conversation started easily enough. Too easily. She was funny without trying, sharp without being cruel. She asked questions that weren't polite fillers. She actually listened to the answers. 10 minutes in, I stopped noticing the chair. 30 minutes in, I forgot it was there at all. Then she said it. "So," she said casually, stirring her drink, "did they tell you?" I didn't pretend, no. She nodded, unsurprised. "They never do." There it was, the line where most people stumble. "I was in an accident when I was 19, she continued, voice steady. "Spinal injury. I don't walk. I won't. I like honesty, so I'm telling you now instead of letting you wonder." I swallowed. "Thank you for telling me." She met my eyes. "I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm asking for clarity." The rest of the date passed in a strange, quiet fog. I laughed. I answered. I paid attention. But inside, my mind was wrestling with thoughts I didn't want to admit: fear, uncertainty, the sudden realization that I hadn't been prepared to confront my own limits. When we stood to leave, her adjusting her chair, me awkwardly hovering, she looked up at me. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Of course." She didn't rush the words. "Do you still want to date me?" There was no accusation in her voice, no sadness, just a question she'd clearly asked before and learned to survive the answers to. I could have lied. I could have said yes out of politeness, then disappeared. I could have said no and blamed timing. Instead, I told the truth. "I don't know," I said, "and I hate that I don't know." She studied my face for a long moment, then nodded. "That's still an answer." We exchanged a polite goodbye. No tension, no drama, just two people parting ways with different weights on their shoulders. That night I couldn't sleep. Not because of her chair. Because of myself. I realized how easily I'd assumed love should be convenient. How rarely I'd questioned whether my comfort mattered more than my capacity to grow. A week passed. Then two. I kept thinking about her laugh, about the way she'd said clarity like it was a boundary, not a plea, about the strength it must take to ask that question knowing the odds. One evening, without overthinking it, I texted her. "I've been thinking about your question. I think I answered too quickly." She replied a minute later. "Most people do." "Can we talk?" I asked. "Yes," she said, "but only if you're ready to be honest." We met again, different cafe, same calm energy. "I was afraid," I admitted, "not of you, of what loving you might ask of me." She nodded. "That's fair." "I don't want to be brave for a week and gone after," I continued. "I don't want to waste your time." "Good," she said softly, "then don't." I took a breath. "I want to try, slowly, honestly, and if I learn I'm not capable of what you deserve, I'll say it to your face." For the first time, her smile wavered, not from weakness, but from relief. "That," she said, "is all I ever wanted." Dating her wasn't inspirational. It wasn't tragic. It was real. Some days were easy. Some weren't. I learned that love isn't proven by what you can carry, but by what you're willing to understand. Months later, sitting beside her as the sun dipped low, she leaned her head against my shoulder. "You know," she said quietly, "most people answer that question with their fear." I smiled. I almost did. She looked up at me. "I'm glad you came back." "So am I." Because sometimes the real blind date isn't with another person. It's with the parts of yourself you've never been forced to meet. We kept seeing each other, but we didn't call it anything at first. No labels, no big announcements, just time. We learned each other's routines in quiet ways, which cafes had doors that were too narrow, which sidewalks sloped just enough to be annoying, which days her body felt heavier, and which days her mind moved faster than either of us could keep up with. I learned quickly that asking, "Do you need help?" was different from assuming she did. Sometimes she said yes. Sometimes she smiled and said, "I've got it." And sometimes she said, "Just stay close." Those were my favorite moments, not because I was useful, but because I was trusted. One evening, while we were waiting for takeout, she said, "People think my life stopped the day of the accident." I shook my head. It didn't. "No," she agreed, "but it changed direction, and a lot of people don't want to learn a new map." I thought about that later, lying awake in my apartment. How many times I'd walked away from things just because they didn't look like the future I'd imagined. A few weeks in, she invited me to meet her parents. "You don't have to," she said quickly. "I just don't want surprises." "I want to," I replied. Her mother hugged me like she was checking for sincerity. Her father shook my hand a little too firmly. They asked polite questions, watched closely, loved fiercely. When we left, she exhaled, "You passed." "I wasn't auditioning," I said. She smiled. "Everyone is all the time." Later that night, sitting in her living room, she looked at me seriously. "Can I ask you something difficult?" "You always do," I said gently. "Are you staying because you want me," she said, "or because you want to be the kind of person who can handle this?" The question landed hard. I didn't rush my answer. "I want you," I said, "and I'm becoming someone better because of you, not instead of choosing you." Her eyes filled, but she blinked it back. "Thank you for knowing the difference." Time kept moving. We argued sometimes, about stupid things, about real ones too. I got frustrated when plans took longer. She got frustrated when I apologized for things that didn't need apologies. Once, after a rough day, she said sharply, "Don't treat me like I'm fragile." I took a breath. "I'm sorry, I'm still unlearning." She softened, "I know." Months later, we were at the same cafe where we'd first met. Same window, same light. She reached across the table and took my hand. "You never answered my question directly," she said. "I did," I replied, "just not all at once." She smiled. "Do you still want to date me?" I squeezed her hand. "Yes, I do." This time there was no hesitation, no fear pretending to be logic. She nodded, satisfied. "Good, because I don't want to be someone's brave choice anymore." "You're not," I said. "You're my choice." She leaned back, eyes closing briefly, like someone setting down a weight they'd carried too long. And I understood something then. Love isn't about overcoming someone's circumstances. It's about standing beside them long enough to realize they were never the obstacle at all.